everybody, in this video we will talk about the difference between the camera's crop sensor and the camera's full frame. If you are looking for a camera, this is the video for you. One follower in Instagram asked me to do this video and here I am. I always do what my followers ask me. So let's start with the video here in Slovenia, walking in the woods with a nice sun. I'm going to start explaining you that back in the day the cameras used to use these films and the measured was 35 millimeters. That became the standard in the world of photography. Now the technology started to go forward and nowadays everybody's using digital cameras. But because this was the standard, 35 millimeters, if you have a camera with the sensor of 35 millimeters, it's considered a full frame camera. And if the sensor is smaller, they call it crop sensor. Now talking about cameras crop sensor, we have two kinds of cameras crop sensor: the APS-C and the micro four thirds. Of course, the cameras that you have in your phone and the action cameras like the GoPro has smaller sensors than the full frame, and of course they are crop sensors. But in this video we are talking about these cameras. So what are the differences in the sizes? The full frame cameras are 36 millimeters by 24 millimeters. The APS-C cameras are between 22 to 24 millimeters by 15 to 16 millimeters in Canon. And the micro four thirds cameras are 17.3 millimeters by 13 millimeters. They are really small. When the sensor is bigger, the pixels are bigger, and this is going to affect what the camera can do in many different ways. The first thing you're going to notice is the crop factor, and I'm going to explain you what it means. If you have a lens of 50 millimeters and you put it in a full frame camera, it's going to look like a 50 millimeter. But if you put that lens into an APS-C camera, it's going to look like an 80 millimeter because of the crop factor of 1.6x. If you put it in a micro four thirds, it's going to be double. So the lens of 50 millimeters is going to look like 100 millimeters. For example, here I have a picture that I want to show you that I took with this camera full frame with a lens of 20 millimeters. If I would put that lens in an APS-C, the picture will look like this, and in a micro four thirds, the picture will look like this. As you can see, these sensors are very different. Now, this crop is not necessarily bad, because imagine if you like to do these pictures of wildlife, or you need a very good zoom. Everybody knows that a very good zoom in a full frame camera, those are very expensive. In the crop sensor, cameras are not just cheaper, but because of this cropping, the zoom is actually more powerful for a less price. So at the end, it depends on what you're going to use the camera for. Another difference is the depth of field. In a full frame camera, you can get a very nice depth of field. This like blurry background that makes your pictures and videos so professional. For example, if we put a 50mm 2.8 lens in a full frame camera, this depth of field is going to be very nice. But if we put that lens into a micro four thirds, it's gonna look like 100mm 5.6. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to get a good depth of field with a crop sensor camera. We can actually imitate the same depth of field that a full frame camera, but we have to change the lenses. For example, this lens that we were using in the full frame camera, 50mm 2.8. If we want to get the same depth of field in a micro four thirds, we need to change the lens for a 25mm 1.4. It's not impossible, but what happens if in the full frame camera we have a lens of 25mm 1.8? Then to compensate this and get the same depth of field, we need to put a 12.5 millimeters lens in a micro four thirds, 0.9, and I think that lens doesn't exist. And if it does, it's going to be very expensive. So to summarize, it is possible to get a good depth of field with the micro four thirds camera or a crop sensor camera, but the options are limited. Now let's talk about dynamic range. Because the full frame cameras have a bigger sensor and bigger pixels, the dynamic range is much better. And now for the same reason, bigger pixels and bigger sensor, they also capture more light. So they are much better in low light performance. I used to have a Lumix GH5. That camera is amazing for video. Actually, right now I have a G85 always with me, just in case. It's a very good camera for video. But when I want to record in low light, they are not good because they are micro four thirds. Not good performance. Now, if you're not recording in the night or taking pictures in the night or low light, these cameras that I just mentioned are amazing, and basically you're gonna save a lot of money. So now I think we understand that if what we're looking for is the best top quality, we have to go for full frame cameras. But not always we're looking for the top quality. Sometimes we're also looking for like the weight of the camera or the size of the camera. Like me, for example, sometimes when I travel, I need a lighter camera because full frame cameras are heavier. And also the cost, because full frame cameras are double the price and sometimes even more than double. So at the end, everything depends on the needs that you have and what are you going to use the camera for. Now, if you want to know the difference between DSLR cameras and mirrorless cameras, I did a video before with all the details and I'm going to leave you the link here and also in the description below. And I hope that this video was useful to you. And let me tell you something, 70% of the people that are watching my channel are not subscribed. What is going on? Subscribe to my channel, I publish every week. So now, until next week.